Well, I'm delighted with it. You know, this is I think my 9th visit to Shanghai. My first visit was in 1980. Shanghai was very different then. And I spoke at a conference at your Maritime Academy on shipping, but it was on shipping not so much in China, but it was Chinese companies in those days. Yikfeng, Ocean Tramping, and Costco. Today, we are talking about shipping in China, and we are talking about the marine environment of China, which is a very, very important subject. But China has now become the center of the world for shipping, and indeed for foreign trade. If you had told me when I was here in 1980 that we would be talking about foreign trade in the context of China being the leading trading nation in the world, and also the leading ship-owning nation in the world, I would not have believed it. And to see the way things are now, where ships are being built here, ships are being owned here, crewed by Chinese seafarers. We always had a great many Chinese seafarers. And indeed, the whole question of protection of the environment, not just the air we breathe, but also the marine environment, is being looked at in terms of China and what China is doing. It's a remarkable thing to see that China now leads the world in many ways. One of the things, you know, that we're talking about today is how China is now the leader in the fight for global free trade. The United States no longer is. And one of the reasons why so many people have come to this conference is to talk about free trade and indeed the opportunities that the shipping industry has and protecting those opportunities from going backward. We don't want to go back to the way things were after the Second World War, when trade was blocked by high tariffs and we were all recovering from a terrible world war, not only in Europe but also in the Pacific region. Today, a very different thing has opened up, and you see it epitomized in the city of Shanghai itself. Shanghai itself, when I came here in 1980, did not have a modern airport. It did not have modern roads. Very few people had automobiles. Today, Shanghai is perhaps the most modern city, as well as the most ancient city in the world. That's an important thing to think about. I worked with our Smithsonian Institute, which is our national museum in Washington. I don't know if you've seen the exhibit that was mounted by the government of Singapore dealing entirely with one ship, which was a ship that sailed from this city, what we now call Shanghai, around the year 800, full of cargo going to Baghdad, at the time when Baghdad was the center of a brilliant civilization. At that time, 800 years, well, more than 800, about 1,200 years ago, 1,300 years ago, we had in Shanghai, or you had in Shanghai, a vibrant manufacturing sector. But you had, this was before the invention of porcelain. This was before a lot of the things that Chinese civilization developed, for example, in the Ming Dynasty. That ship was found intact in what is now Indonesia and is now in an exhibit in a museum in Singapore. And I urge you to go, if you're in Singapore, to go and see that, because if you are Shanghainese, you will get a wonderful picture of what this city was doing, very much like today, but, you know, 1,300 years ago. Isn't that, and that is an amazing thing. Most people don't realize that the maritime history of this city and the Shanghai region goes back thousands of years, but particularly in terms of the actual shipping, many of the things that we consider so modern really were going on right here in Shanghai, as I say, 1,300 years ago.